Hi, I'm Mary Roberts, Executive Director at Frank Lloyd Wright's Martin House. This year has been a momentous one at the Martin House, and through it all, our volunteers have led the way in helping achieve our mission to preserve, interpret, promote, and sustain this integrated composition of world-class architecture, design, and landscape. To all our Martin House volunteers, thank you for taking the time to do what you do, to care so deeply about what you do, and to do it all with good spirits and extreme attention to detail when the world is changing around us every day at the Martin House. Normally, we like to look forward because there are plenty of opportunities that lie ahead, both for the Martin House and for all of us who are part of it. But today, we take a look back at the history of our volunteer program with remarks from Susie Warren, a longtime board member who was also the first Martin House volunteer coordinator. Susie's comments will be followed by greetings from Margie Stellick, who served as the Director of Volunteers beginning in 1999 before taking on other additional responsibilities. After Margie, you'll hear from other familiar faces. Angela Laviano-Hamister, who became our Director of Volunteers in 2009, and so much more. You'll also hear from Gina Miano, our Director of Education, and Alejandro Quiros, our Facilities Manager. I hope you will enjoy this video thank you for all you do here at the Martin House.
Hi, I'm Susie Warren. I was the first Director of Volunteers as a volunteer. The volunteer world at the Martin House started in the winter of 1995 when I was running Leadership Buffalo, and I got a phone call during a huge snowstorm from a colleague of mine at Leadership New York City. He had worked in Buffalo and he wanted to bring his leadership class to Buffalo to prove that there was life beyond the Hudson. So we organized a group. We put together 2 days. We told them they could not do Western New York in 1 day. They had to do 2 days. And they came to Buffalo in July. There was a fellow in that class who was an architect and who had become an architect because of Frank Lloyd Wright and because of the Martin House. And he asked if we could maybe arrange to drive by the Martin House. He knew it was not open, it was kind of in disrepair, it wasn't being used at all. And we said, oh, sure. Well, I knew that Bob Cressy was on the board because I knew his wife, Mary Ann, and so I called Bob and asked him if he could arrange a drive-by and maybe we could stop with the Leadership New York City class and he could say a couple things about the plans to restore the house. Well, Bob organized a continental breakfast in the house, let the class run all over the place. This architect was beyond excited, and the whole Leadership New York City class was incredibly impressed. Well, after they toured the house, it occurred to me that maybe this was something that was really important to do to help restore this Frank Lloyd Wright home. So I pulled together a bunch of people that I knew, including Mary Ann Cressy, and we told Mark Kirsty, who was then the executive director, that we would help him by organizing some tours or a speaker's bureau or whatever Mark needed. So we started doing that, and we started giving tours once in a great while because of a gal named Martha Neary who had given tours several years before for the university. Well, we kept working on our tours once in a while on a Saturday maybe, and then Jack Quinnen, who was on the Martin House board, said that he had promised the Frank Lloyd Wright Conservancy that they could have their conference in Buffalo in 1997. So in the fall of 1996, we started planning for the conference. Well, at the time, there were a couple people on the board of directors who really didn't think we should do any kind of volunteer efforts until the house was totally restored. Well, my position was we had a story in the restoration itself, and now we had the Conservancy coming, so we had to organize tours. They told us that we could have some retail at the hotel, then the Adams Mark. We organized tours all over the city, but the premier tour was of the Martin House. And we had to organize some docents and some chaperones, because this was a fairly good-sized group. So we got all this going thanks to having the Conservancy in town. Well, the Conservancy came in the fall of 1997, and they were blown away. They were blown away by Buffalo, and they were completely blown away by the Martin House. And by now, we had some organized volunteer groups, docents and chaperones, people doing retail. The first chairman of retail was a gal named Sue McHugh, and she would come to our planning meetings with this gigantic raincoat that she had dreamed up. And when she opened the raincoat, there would be pockets with Frank Lloyd Wright stuff in all the pockets, and we would buy all this stuff. And then shortly after that, and before the Conservancy Conference, Becky Lee came on as the head of the retail committee, and she headed that for a number of years. So we had tours, we had retail, we had a speakers bureau, and we were way out ahead of the board. In the fall of 1996, the board started inviting me to come to meetings because the volunteers truly were moving, and they wanted to keep us somewhat under control. The original board was a very interesting group of very dynamic men. About at this time, I had gone through a communication style training called DISC, D-I-S-C. The D is for dominant. All of these guys were high D. They were used to being in charge. They were used to having, their word was the word. They used to argue and yell at each other and then go out for a drink afterwards. I could never understand it. And I mentioned this to a friend of mine named Gretchen Stringer, who was involved all over the community. And she told me, these guys are not used to being asked. You don't ask them, you tell them. So I tried it out one day at a board meeting, and I told them, the volunteers are going to do this. We're going to do tours. We're going to do some retail at the Barton House, and we'll let you know how it goes. And they were like, oh, okay. So we started the volunteers. There was a debate one day at the board meeting about whether we should have volunteer corps or whether we should wait and have only paid staff do tours and retail, etc. Well, the volunteers won out, and that was the right decision for sure.
Hi everybody, my name is Margie Stellick, and I've been a volunteer at the Martin House since 1996. And I've had the pleasure of volunteering at other organizations, and I can tell you without question, the Martin House volunteers are the best volunteers in Western New York. So no matter what job you do here, whether you work in the office, or you do research on the house as a family members, or if you work on special events, or if you work on membership, or if you work on the beautiful gardens and grounds, or if you're a lift, haul, move, carry volunteer, thank you. Or if you work in the museum shop and you help people pick out a special gift for me or for someone in their family, or if you work in the house and you are one of those wonderful people who chase the dust bunnies all around and make the windows sparkle, or if you are a chaperone and you help keep all the visitors together and you protect the contents of the house, or perhaps you're a docent and you give tours and you answer the visitors' questions and you help this house come alive and tell them about the history of the house and the people who lived here. No matter what you do on this property, and I'm sure I forgot many of the things that the volunteers do here, we appreciate what you do. So in the words of a good friend of the Martin House, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for everything that you do, and I look forward to seeing you here the next time I'm on site. Thank you.
Darwin and Isabel welcomed family and friends from near and far to their home. They wanted this house to be a home which would bring people together, to make memories, and to celebrate special moments. Their spirit lives on in each and every one of you. Your love and care for the house, the landscape, and the story is what makes the Martin House so vibrant. Thank you for being part of the Martin House team and for making this story come alive each and every day.
Volunteerism is a very special gift of time and talent, and I have been so lucky to work with so many of you these past years. I'm always impressed with the many different specialties and backgrounds that you bring to the table, the thoughtfulness that goes into every hour spent volunteering, and your dedication to the project in the city. The people of the Martin House make it a very special place to work and visit, and I'm convinced that we have the best volunteers. Thank you for all that you do, and we love you.
As you know, 2020 has been a very unconventional year, certainly a year to remember. Your help and support has been critical in keeping the landscape looking beautiful, as well as keeping your historic houses safe and clean for our visitors. You have helped pull the ugliest of weeds from the planting beds to the smallest speck of dust on the woodwork. We are where we are today because of you. Sending you a warm hug and the deepest gratitude for all your hard work. Thank you.
In closing, we have one of the very best historic house museums in America, and absolutely the very best volunteers as well. We could not do it without you, and it would not be anywhere near as rewarding or fun without you. The words seem insufficient, but I am humbled and honored every day to be part of our team. With your dedicated help, we are creating a wonderful legacy that will benefit our community for generations to come, and the best is yet to come. To all Martin House volunteers, past and present, thank you for everything you do. It is an honor and a privilege to know you and to work with you here at Frank Lloyd Wright's Martin House.